Hey, this is Evan Longoria of your San Francisco Giants, and you're listening to Torture Cast.
You're listening to a podcast by and for fans of the San Francisco Giants. Let's go, Giants! With hosts Willie Dills, Chad King, Ben Lee, and Eric Nathanson. Dedicated to the greatest team in Major League Baseball, the San Francisco Giants. This is Torture Cast. Standing on time, not gonna stop. We came to play, ain't slowing down. Falling on, we're here to stay, and we're stomping on whatever's in our way. I'm feeling like a Giant tonight.
It's Monday, March 26, 2018, and this is episode 136 of the Torture Cast, the podcast by and for fans of the San Francisco Giants. And guess what, everybody? It's our season preview. We do this every year. A little bit before the beginning of the season. Of course, the Giants launch with game number 1 this Thursday. They're playing the A's tonight in the Bay Bridge Series. But joining us tonight, we got a little bit of a reunion. Back from Austin, Texas, Willie Dills. Willie, what's up, man?
Not much. Doing a little streaming, a little Hearthstoning, but got to come in and do the season preview with you guys because I'm actually very excited for this season for a few reasons. Not because I think the Giants are going to be world beaters this year, but because there's some players that I'm just going to enjoy watching play baseball, and that's enough for me right now. I think my expectations of even year bullshit have been tempered pretty heavily by 2016, and I don't know, like it's just gonna be a fun season, like I would just what I would like to see is I'd like to see them beat on the Dodgers a lot, which would be great, but ultimately I think we're gonna have to rely on the Astros to probably do that again, so maybe we'll have some fun during some of those
Houston
years.
Yeah, exactly. And also joining us from his pecan farm in Georgia, Eric Nathanson. What's up, dude?
Oh, it's not my pecan farm, but one day.
Yeah, but one day. You got to start small.
Yeah, well, I'm just a nut on the pecan farm right now, so maybe one day I can just take over the whole thing.
Well, you are a nut for your season prediction in terms of number of wins. But we'll get to that in a bit.
Yeah, you're gonna. I think. Yeah, I can't. I want to see like people's reactions when they hear this episode. I'm excited for that.
I've been Willie, you're positive, man. I'm positive too.
I'm usually the overly positive one. So that's fine. I guess being away from San Francisco and watching from afar, like I don't have the echo chamber I used to have. Where
the voice of reason is creeped in for you.
No, okay, but I will say when it comes to positivity, I do have one thing going for me that I don't think anybody can top, and that's that I have a bet going with my buddy Ty, who lives out here, who's an Astros fan. And was just he was just so happy last season, and I was happy for him. And we jumped and hugged and everything. It was great. But I have a bet with him that not only will the Warriors win the NBA championship this season, the Giants are going to win the World Series.
Oh,
and the 49ers are going to win the Super Bowl. I got a trifecta going.
Well, wait a second.
Okay, so does he win if not one of those things?
Or
essentially we're betting team to team on each thing. But so I've been making this joke that's going to happen for sure. Like I keep telling him like, "Oh no, you don't understand, dude. Like 100%, this is happening." And he was like, "All right." It's like I have to shut you down because this is ridiculous. He's like, "That's not going to happen." So he's taking all the Houston teams, essentially even money against all my San Francisco teams.
Willie, I hate to break it to you, but you're totally screwed because the last 2 times that Loyola went deep in the NCAA tournament, 1963 they won.
Oh shit! Okay, here we go.
And 1985 they made it to the Sweet 16. In those years, the Bears won the NFL championship.
Oh wow! Okay, so it's a Chicago Bears all the way then. Okay.
Right. So you're totally on your 49ers side of it, but I think you're good on the other two.
Yeah, but do the Bears have Jimmy Garoppolo, the football god who never loses football games ever?
I
don't think they do.
We've got Mitchell Trubisky. I mean, he's going to be throwing the ball now. Allen Robinson getting it down the seam there for the Bears, bringing it in. I mean, come on.
All right. Okay.
Hey, come on now.
Fair enough. I'm just saying, like, Jimmy G's never going to lose a football game over the 6-year contract he just got with the 49ers. We're going 16-0. 16-0 every
looking
season.
Good. Houston's looking good this year. We'll see what the Warriors can do with them if they make each other. They face each other.
I'm actually really concerned about the one part of the bet I wasn't concerned about now, which is the Warriors part. But
all four All-Stars are out now. Curry's going to miss the first round of the playoffs.
I know, but look, they're all going to come back strong. Beginning of the playoffs is going to be fine.
Yeah,
it's going to be fine.
We'll see I believe it. All right, so I know you got to go stream, so let's get to it real quick. We got to address the first thing though before we get to our season predictions, and that is the major news that hit last week. But Madison Bumgarner, as we all know, in his very last start, because it couldn't not be the last start of spring training, his next start was going to be in Los Angeles on Thursday. Gets a line drive back up the middle. He instinctively reaches it to protect his face with his hand, and of course breaks one of the bones in his pinky on his pitching hand. And when he was carted off, or shouldn't say carted off, when he walked off, Hank Schulman and others are saying, well, the trainer wasn't stabilizing his hand, which is a good sign. Maybe it doesn't mean it's broken. Well, no, there's a fracture there. So long story short, he had surgery to put pins in there. Those pins are going to stay for 4 to 6 weeks. He cannot even throw with those pins in, so he's going to have to build up his strength after they're removed. So they're talking about 8 weeks minimum before he's back with the Major League team, maybe even longer. So what are your first thoughts? I mean, besides, slitting your wrist as a Giants fan, what kind of solace can we take in what the team can do to replace him in the interim?
Not a lot of solace to be had, unfortunately, because we don't necessarily have just a whole bunch of super dope starters almost ready to go right now. That would have been cool if we did, but we don't. And also on top of that, Samardzij's hurt too, right? So,
yeah.
And I mean, look, Samardzij being hurt wouldn't necessarily be that big of a deal because obviously, like, he's a hit or miss starter at this point in his career. But when you lose your number one starter, you would like to say, okay, well, now at least we got this guy to kind of come in and maybe help weather the storm a little bit. At least have a few decent starts within the bunch of crappy ones he's kind of destined to also have. So now, I mean, it's basically like Cueto Carius for 8 weeks.
Well, I mean, the young guys are going to have to step up. I mean, it can't be Cueto. This rotating door of Block, Holland, Stratton, Beatty, maybe Suarez. They're going to have to do it. Yeah,
and we're going to rely pretty heavily probably on the bullpen because Cueto is basically the only guy who's going to be at all close to what you could consider a horse too, right? Like most of the other guys are probably going to be like 5-inning type guys. So
I think Stratton's going to be the guy to come out and surprise people. I think Stratton's going to turn into a similar to Matt Cain type pitcher.
Oh, he's a big guy, right? I mean, he's like, what, 6'2", 6'3", something like that? And
he's got a great curveball. His curveball last season had the highest spin rate of any curveball, and I've never heard that as being a big deal, but I guess that means it moves quicker and tighter, so Stratton's curveball is a really good weapon. And you remember back in the day, Kane was a fastball curveball pitcher. Yep. So he just kind of reminds me of that. And I don't know. I feel like he's going to have the breakout year and be the one pitcher that not makes us forget about Bum's injury, but at least kind of weathers the blow a little bit.
We just need to not be in dead last 8 weeks in, I think. Is that the idea here is can we be 7 games back, 6 games back, within striking distance, and that's early to be 6 games back's okay, but without that kind of win every 5th day guy, and the Dodgers being as good as they are, that feels like that's reaching even, right?
Yeah, well, the biggest problem I see is not just the fact they're missing their 40% of their starting rotation for the first 4 to 6 weeks or longer. It's the fact that they play the Dodgers 10 times out of the first 29 games.
During that period, yeah.
I mean, that's insane. I mean, you only play each other 19 times in the regular season, and they're getting away with more than half of that in their first month. And so the Shark and Bumgarner are going to be gone for all of that period of time. And
but obviously,
conversely, they're going to be facing Kershaw for 3 of those 10, and so maybe even 4. So there's a rough road ahead, and if they get if they lose, let's say 8 out of those 10, I mean hopefully not, but if they lose 7 or 8 of those 10, that's going to put them behind the 8 ball right at the beginning of the season.
I actually think even more than the pitching though, it's really going to be on our lineup to come together to make this
They have to make it
less
up.
painful.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Bingo.
like this could be a lot less painful if Brandon Belt and Crawford both have comeback seasons. If Austin Jackson can be pretty decent, and if McCutchen and Longoria can I think McCutchen is dialed in to have a good year. Longoria, I think, is like the wild card on that in that aspect. Last year he was kind of a middling player, but obviously we know he's got the talent to do it. He's just not a spring chicken anymore. So if those guys, if the lineup, but it seems like we have more decent pieces up and down the lineup this season, right? So it's not gonna all be on Buster Posey, right? It's not gonna all be on Brandon Belt, and that I think is the key here.
The lineup is so much deeper and longer than it's been in the last few years. Every year we're talking and screaming about depth, and they finally have depth.
Yeah,
they're not starting Gorkys Hernandez for a bunch of games. They're not starting, I can't think of Jae-Gung Wong, those kind of guys. They're going to have the length in the lineup. I predict Belt, Longo, and Kutch. I think they're all going to have over 20 home runs this year.
All right. Now, I haven't really been keeping up exactly on the outfield situation, but is it McCutchen in right, Hunter Pence in left? Is that the idea?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yep.
I like that a lot better, too, because I think Hunter Pence obviously has lost a little bit of a step, and he's another guy. It's if we can take the pressure off of him, I think he suddenly is, because we kind of expect him to be Hunter Pence when we signed him, right? And he's just not that anymore. So now we don't need him to be that, right?
This is the 5th year of his deal. So it's the final year of his deal. He's playing for a contract, and I think he knows he's kind of a role player after this year. Yeah. Apparently this offseason he changed his swing, and then about halfway through spring training he was 2 for 25, and he was screw this, and he went back to his old way, and he started hitting the crap out of the ball.
All right.
So it's possible Pence is going to have flashes, but, he's past his prime.
But I love me some Hunter Pence, and I would love to see him come back as I kind of want him to just finish his career here. It's even if it's 4th outfielder status, right? Because
I think he'd do it too.
Oh, I think he would absolutely do it. Yeah, I do know he's opening that Gamer Cafe in Houston, but the Astros aren't going to be looking for a 4th outfielder anytime soon.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah,
they're pretty
so that
deep
doesn't
out
quite
there in
make
Houston.
sense. Although he might do a thing where he goes back for his last season just because that's where he was made, right? And he is a Texan. And I know, my buddy Ty, who is a huge Astros fan, still talks about Hunter Pence and how sad he was when he left to go to the Phillies.
Wow.
That's a guy they still just can't get over, right? Losing that guy.
Isn't that crazy?
I mean, look, he's a great guy. Who wants to lose Hunter Pence, right?
No, we just want Hunter Pence from a few years ago. That's all. But
but
Father Time has caught up with him. He's had some flashes of brilliance in the spring training, but that happens with all of them. So look, they moved him to left field. He's going to be hitting further down in the lineup, and so he's going to be used the way he should be used. And hopefully, he's not going to have extended periods of injuries, which for most of his career he was an Iron Man, but he's not that anymore.
He's like a seven hitter now, right? For us, I'm looking at it, I'm just he doesn't fit into the 5th spot at all with the rest of these guys.
No, especially with the new acquisitions. No, he's been relegated to that deeper in the lineup kind of thing.
Well, if they're facing a right-hander pitcher, Bochy has favored going Panik, Belt, I believe Kutch, Posey, Longoria.
That makes sense.
Right, and then Crawford to get another lefty back in there, and then Pence, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, and then you go Pence then what,
He's 7 at that point.
So is Austin Jackson our 8?
Yeah, well, him or Steven Duggar. It depends.
Okay, all right.
Makes
team.
sense.
Makes sense to me. I could dig that lineup.
Yeah, if they're facing a left-hander, though, Austin Jackson will be leading off most likely.
Leading off, probably.
Yeah,
right, and then Panik will bat second, and I don't know what the hell they're going to do after that yet. I don't know where they're going to keep Longo, Kutch, and Posey at that point.
Well, then it kind of falls apart. You probably try to swap back and forth as much as possible for the late game bullpen situations, and just kind of admit that you don't have the greatest lineup against lefties, right? So.
Yeah, and if the Giants carry 13 to start the season, it makes sense because Shark has pitched, I think, 5 consecutive innings. He's the only other pitcher besides Max Scherzer that has pitched 5 consecutive seasons of 200 innings or more.
Wow,
he's eaten a ton of innings for the Giants, and he's hit or miss, like you said, Willie, at the beginning of the podcast. But he is valuable in a lot of regard, and one of them is saving the bullpen. Even if he's given up 8 runs, at least he can just stay out there and mop up, right? A couple extra innings to save arms.
Yeah, I like it.
But yeah, with him out and Bum, who again also is a horse as well, he pitches close to 200 every season before last year. Yeah, that's going to put a lot more pressure because you have some of these younger guys that are only going to be able to go 4 or 5 or 6 max, and so the bullpen's going to be taxed. So I think they are going to need to add that 13th guy.
Yeah, so I think the Giants can be not dead last in home runs and stuff and all that like they were last year. I think they can weather this storm, but yeah, we're going to need to be within striking range, and then it's going to be fighting for a wild card spot, I think, come playoff time, if anything.
If they can hang around 500 for 2 months, they can do anything.
So real quick before I have to
go, I think. Yeah. So let's do the season preview. So we do these predictions in terms of the number of wins the Giants are going to get every year, and I gotta admit, I'd been nailing it until last year for like 4 years in a row. So yeah, last season was rough. I think a lot of people were off, to be honest. I don't think anyone expected 98 losses by this team, but it's kind of an annual tradition where we go ahead and throw out our predictions. So Willie, go ahead. What do you think?
So I'm going to give you guys quickly just kind of an overall MLB prediction as well while we're at it. Sure. I'm saying that that the Astros and the Indians are the 2 teams out of the American League, and in the National League, it's probably the Dodgers and the Cubs, but I hope it's the Nationals and the Cubs. And I think the Giants are 78 wins, 79 wins, which means that they are finishing 3rd.
So they're not going to make the playoffs then.
So they're not going to make the playoffs.
Not going to make the playoffs.
But I'm also
79 wins isn't going to do it.
I'm also
that would
saying
be
that
amazing.
The Diamondbacks and the Rockies, one of those 2 teams is not as good as people think they are. One of those 2 teams is actually going to finish below us. The Padres obviously are like the cellar dwellers this season, but I think one of those teams is going to have struggles that they don't foresee, and I think the Giants are.
I want to see the Giants. I want to see the Giants break the Cardinals record. What was it, like 2011 or whatever, when they won 83 games and made the wild card? I want to see the Giants win like 82 or 81 and make the wild card.
I mean, I don't think they make the playoffs but I think 79 is actually in 3rd in the West.
Yeah,
weird
just to review,
because I know the Rockies and the Diamondbacks are actually like kind of up and comer teams, but
last year, just to review, let's see, you guessed you were at the high end of our predictions. You thought 91 winning the West by 2 games.
Right.
And Bumgarner
I was feeling
wins
pretty good,
Cy Young.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So definitely not 91. Definitely did not win the West, and Bum fell off his bike. So that was kind of blown out.
So everything fell apart when Bumgarner fell off his bike. So it's not my fault. Right? Okay.
No, it's Bum's fault.
They already sucked way before that last year.
Yeah, but Bumgarner, like, that just killed any momentum. Like, that just killed all hopes and dreams right there. Like, it was it. Yeah. It was dashed in a moment, right?
Well,
I mean, they shouldn't have had hopes and dreams.
Sure,
right.
I thought they weren't good going in, so sure.
Yeah. But but that's my number. I'm sticking to it. But I'm still also hedging my bets by still betting that they're going to win the World Series against my buddy who's an Astros fan, which is I'm going to lose horribly, but that's fine. It's the nature of being a fan, right? You think that they're going to do things that they're never going to do, and that's fine. I mean,
look, they didn't win the World Series in 2016, but they did make the playoffs, so they still have that streak going.
Yeah.
And what's really odd is
minus one, bullpen complete.
Yeah. Ninth inning meltdown.
They were going to take the Cubs to a Game 5, right? So
yeah, I know. We gotta beat that.
That was maybe
a thing.
And the Cubs were like the de facto best team. So I mean, anything can happen.
I'm telling you, it's really weird because the Warriors this year, right? So they won in 15, didn't win in 16. They won in 17, and here we are in 18. And with some of the question marks going in, it's going to be interesting to see if the Warriors don't win the championship this year, it does set them up for an every odd year championship.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay.
And they would have to complete that streak that the Giants did with 3 and 5 if they did not win this year, but they won in 19. Yeah. Wouldn't that be weird?
That would be weird. All right, well, fellas, enjoy the rest of the show, and I'll try to make more regular appearances throughout the season. I'm excited to watch this team play, man. I've been having fun just seeing baseball again. You can't not enjoy watching baseball. Even with a bad team, I will watch as many games as I can.
They're going to be a fun team to watch this year.
Yeah, they will be. They will be. Yeah, I think that with the offense, like they're the team I think could like string together 5 or 6 runs in any inning at all. So that I'm excited for. But anyway, enjoy the rest of the show. I'll talk to everybody later. Peace.
All right, thanks,
See
Willie.
you, Willie.
All right. Willie Dills making a rare appearance here. He's one of the founders of Torchcast, if you guys don't know, by the way. You can follow him at Willie Dills. So he also is real big on Twitch TV. That's kind of where he's spending most of his time right now. That's his full-time. That's how he's earning his money, guys. So if you want to give him some love, go follow him over at twitch.tv/Willie Dills and give him some love, especially if you like video games. All right, so so he went 79. Last year he went 91. Was quite far off. Let's just review last year. Ben and I were not too far off of Willie, and that's what I was going to tell him before he went off, but we guessed 89 and both thinking the wild card. And then you, sir, were the closest, but yet it still wasn't close.
Well,
at 84 wins.
I said they would miss the playoffs and finish in third place. So yeah. I was the only one I think who said they'd miss the playoffs, but third place was way the hell off.
Yeah, no, that's true. I had either nailed it or been within one game each of the previous 4 years. So I was riding a tide, man. I thought for sure 89 was going to be within a game or two, but I don't think anyone was close, to be honest.
64. Who the hell thought the number would be 64? I mean, that's ridiculous. But that won't happen this year. 2018, like we were talking about with Willie, the length of the lineup, it's just almost impossible to lose that many games this year.
No, I mean, if they had the same lineup, I would presume last year, because they had their pitching woes, I would think they would have been at least 5 to 10 games better. I don't know, though. It's hard to say for certainty. You know what I mean? We're going to have to see how this team does. They were second in runs out of all 30 clubs for spring training. I know it's spring training. We all know this. Plenty of crappy teams have led the league in runs before, but at least it's not a bad sign. That's what I can say about it. I can't say that, that's how the regular season is going to turn out, but I can say that that's a not a bad sign.
Well, it's nice that they're hitting. That's part of the reason why. I mean, should we jump back into our win total predictions?
Yeah, I was about to say you had the low ball of 84 last year. You were the closest again. If we were playing darts, you're still on the outer circles. But,
hell yeah!
But you're closer to the bullseye than the rest of the three of us. So
I mean, nobody thought that. I mean, really, nobody thought they were going to be that bad. I was still 20 games off.
I don't know how many wins do they have. Was it 98?
64. So... Yeah, so 64 wins.
Oh my God, isn't that crazy? You said 84. 20 games different. Oh man, 20 games.
Right. They were over 40 games out of first place last season. It was the second largest deficit they ever had in history, and the other one was back in the early 1900s. So it's not even close how bad they were last year.
Yeah. The month and a half of baseball they would have had to play and one straight to catch up. That's just not going to happen.
That's ridiculous.
All right, so what do you think this year?
This year, it's funny.
Okay, so this is not a typo, right? I'm just saying.
Yeah, I swear to God, this is not a typo. Willie alluded to me being a little happy this year, and I'm going to stick with it. I think the Giants are going to win 96 games, and I think they're going to win the World Series. I think they're going to win the NL West and the World Series.
Wow.
I think they're going to beat the Cubs in the NLCS and beat the Yankees in the World Series.
This is shocking. This is like, have you been drinking too much tonight? Are you altered in any way off of any substance? Are you in love? Did your puppy do something to you? Did it lick your face with some acid? I mean, what's going on?
Literally all of the above, aside from acid. I think the Giants, and here's the thing. Bumgarner's injury sucks. And and I know it seems like a season ender. I mean, you wrote about it, how much of a gut punch and a season ender it could be. But the lineup that they have, Arizona was not a mirage. Spring training was not a mirage. I think they're going to score runs and continue to score runs. I think guys like Stratton and Duggar are going to step up. I think Mac Williamson is going to take over the left field role by the end of the year. I think Pence is either just going to slow down or get injured. I think Belt, Longo, and Kutch all hit over 20 home runs. And I think that Duggar wins the Rookie of the Year and the Giants win the World Series.
Wow. That is like, man, you need to go to Vegas. You need to lay some odds out on that, man.
I also, Posey and Panik, they'll battle for the National League batting title. Uh-huh. And I'll give you one piece of information. It didn't necessarily play. Maybe it played in. Who knows? But somebody dug up on Reddit that when the Giants win during an even year, the digits in the number of the year add up to a prime number. And that is why they didn't win in 2016. Well, it's 2018, and those numbers add up. Yep, those numbers add up to 11. 2018 add up to 11, my friend, and that's a prime number.
Oh, my God.
So the Giants are going
to
win the World Series this year. They're going to weather the storm of Madison Bumgarner going out.
3, a prime number, 5, a prime number, 7, a prime number. Those are the 3 championships.
Right.
9 is not a prime number, of course.
Okay,
I'll take 11.
Right, I'll take it further. This is the last chance, because after this year, they're not allowed to win during an even year until 2030. That's the next prime number of the even years, because after 2018 it's 2020, 2022, 2024, and
2020 is going to be 4.
Right, and they're all straight across even numbers. 2022
always even numbers until 2030 is back to 5.
Right.
Oh, I get you.
First chance you have for another prime number. So 2018, the digits add up to 11. Psh, there you go.
Prime number reasoning from Eric and the.
I give credit to Reddit somewhere where I found that, because it's obviously stone cold lock.
Obviously, duh.
Yeah, absolutely. No, but I do. I think that the Giants are better than people think. I think that this is very much like the 2010 team, but a little better. They don't need the late season additions of a Cody Ross for this team or a Pat Burrell. They already have those guys in the lineup. They have guys better than that in the lineup, to be honest. And Bumgarner will have missed basically a year over the last 2 years. So think about how fresh he's going to be for the final 4 months of the season.
That's true.
Samardzija, maybe his velocity will come back up when this pectoral muscle calms down. He'll be able to eat up innings. I already told you I think Stratton's going to turn into a Matt Cain and become a horse. I think Derek Holland, is going to surprise us and have a pretty good year as a starting pitcher. And I think it just all adds up to a veteran team that knows how to get it done, that continues to move the line at times and have shutdown innings when they need them. So the Giants are going to win 96 games, and they're going to beat the Yankees in an old school World Series.
Absolutely incredible, dude. I mean, I hope you are right more than anyone I've ever hoped for in terms of predictions. I want to call you Nostradamus. I want to call you a season lock. I want to call you the prophet. But, I don't think that's going to happen, dude.
Well, that's the thing. I'm looking at your number right now, and I'll say this. We're very far apart.
We are very far apart.
But think about this. We're as far apart as my prediction last year and their actual win total.
Oh, God, isn't that sad?
That is, though, because one's positive and one's like, damn it.
So last year, of course, I went with 89. You went with 84. So we were 5 games apart, but you were on the lower end. Of course, you were closer. Still 20 games off of their actual win total. So this year, I've never, in our, my first season preview on this podcast was 2012. So this will be my 6th season preview. Yeah, 6th season preview. The previous 5, I've always been above 500. I think my lowest ever was an 84. But most of mine are around 88 to 92. That's where kind of in my range has been. And I've nailed 3 out of 4 years. And 1 year I was off by 1 win. I was so into it. I was like, why am I not going to Vegas? Because they have the over and under win totals. I would have won every single one of those years. This year, I got to admit, my expectations were already pretty low, despite the lineup changes, which, again, I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful, like you just said. I think it's possible the Giants' offense is going to actually mitigate some of their pitching deficiencies. But at the same time, I just don't think they necessarily have the depth. Not that they had it last year, which was very apparent. And their pitching isn't that great, even with Bum and the Shark in there, just for a myriad of reasons. But I tell you what, man, back-to-back days when the Shark was down for 4 to 6 weeks and now Bum's out for 2+ months, that takes 40% of their 1 and number 3 starters away for the first month to 2 of the season, in which 10 of their games are going to be played against the Dodgers. That's a tough proposition to be in, because even though I never thought the Giants could win the West this year, even with those 2 guys back in the lineup, that's just going to push them that much further down in the West. And they play the West primarily in the first part of the season. So the Giants, the key to their success, and we talked about this, you mentioned it before, they have to play well. And I mean well is 500, by the way. The first month of the season, 6 weeks of the season. They have to. It's primarily interdivision, and it's primarily against the Dodgers. And if they get too far behind the 8 ball, then you're faced with the aspect or the prospect of being 6, 7, 8, 9 games back, trying to make that up. Even with Bum and Shark back, that's a really tall order, man. I'm sorry, but it's possible, but I don't think it's going to happen, and I think it's going to burn out the team. So I think originally I was floating around the low 80s. I was thinking they could be a 500 team this year with those guys in. Without them, I think that easily knocks off 3 or 4 or maybe even 5 wins. I really do. Because that's how many starts. Bum's going to miss, about 8 starts, maybe 10 if it goes long. If the Giants could be 500 with a AAA pitcher, Bum probably would be 7 or 8 wins. So that's 2 or 3 wins right there. Shark is probably another 2 wins there. So yeah, I think 5 wins is kind of a safe assumption that they're going to lose in that initial stretch, and barring other injuries and what have you. So I'm going with my lowest season prediction ever. I'm thinking 76. 76. And I know that's below 500. That's 76 and 86. That's 10 games under 500 for the year. But I mean, guys, last year they won 64. I'm sorry, 60. I said 64. Oh yeah, it is 64.
No, you were right. 64.
That bad.
Yeah.
I wanted to say 68. 64
they were that
wins,
bad.
guys. So when I say 76, that's still 12 games. 12. Not 2, not 4. That's 12 games better than they did last year. 12. Okay? I mean, I don't think it's a huge stretch to think that's saying this team is 12 games better than last year. That's an improvement. And that's what's freaky about it, is that's just, a couple games a month, but it's still an improvement. I hope I'm wrong. That's all I have to say about that.
Well,
it's frustrating, but I wouldn't be shocked to see this team prove me wrong, only because of what you mentioned earlier, like the 2010 team. No one saw that thing coming out of thin air. No way.
Oh, I wish I had a podcast at that time, because I swear to you, during spring training that year, for the first time in my life, I said out loud, the Giants are going to win the World Series this year. Wow. There was just something about that team. There's just a feeling about a team. And I felt that this year. And the Bumgarner injury was the gut punch that kind of takes it out of you. And I get it. But I personally, I think that they're going to rally from that at some point. But yeah, it's a different, I don't know, 2010, sorry. I really do. I've always wished that. I said that to my father. You know what I mean? I was like, they're going to win it this year. You watch. He's like, nah, whatever. We'll see. And then Timmy went out and he blanked the Astros opening day and it was over.
Yeah. No, they were. Look, I don't know if it's baseball karma or what. I don't know if they traded their soul to get those 3 World Series rings, but I tell you, man, it's just been, since 2014, it's been a hard road. I mean, yeah, they made the playoffs in 2016, but that was after an atrocious second half, and that was after blowing Game 4 in the manner that they did with the 3-run lead in the 9th inning. And then, of course, 2017, it led into Bum's injury and the 98 loss season. And now it's leading into 2018. And to be honest, everything looked rosy, man. Everybody was happy-go-lucky. We talked about it on our last podcast when I went to Media Day. Everybody was legitimately in a good mood. Everybody was like, 98 losses?
Right.
I don't even remember that. That's not even the same team. I don't care. We're going to be fine. And it's just a weird, cruel blow when right before Arizona camp breaks, both the Shark and Bum go out in back-to-back days. And I don't obviously believe in karma and religion and all that stuff, but at the same time, you just kind of go, maybe there are baseball gods. Maybe they're the only deities in the universe, and they're just really cruel sometimes. And it just seems like just when the Giants were getting up off the floor, dusting themselves off and getting ready for the fight, they get knocked down again. And it's not a death blow, but man, it's hard. It's hard. But look, the Giants last year, they started really, really cold, even with Bumgarner, right? Because he didn't go down until May. So they had the first 5-6 weeks of the season. So,
well, he went down April 20th because
was it the 20th? Oh God,
it was 4. Yeah, it was.
So it was only 3 weeks into the season. It was. Yeah. That's right. It was 420.
But they weren't that good. They really weren't that good before then.
No, they started off cold, and I think that's the key to the season. If they, talking to guys like Brandon Belt and Crawford and reading a lot of stories, there were a lot of players who, after Bum's injury last year, really kind of got down and out on it. Not only because they were performing poorly as a team, but then Bum goes down and it just kind of snowballed from there. And they're professionals and it should not affect them in that way, but a few of them admitted that it was hard, not to think about those things. This year, I think the same blanket could be over the team. I think it just depends on how they're going to respond. And I think if they respond well and perform, at 500 or better, I think that's going to help to kind of brush that injury off their shoulders. And they're not going to think about Bumgarner until he comes back. But if they start the season, 5-15 or 10-18 or, something pretty bad, I think it's going to get in their craw and they're going to think about it. And it's just going to snowball from there. That's what they have to avoid. They have to just focus on the assets they have. I mean, look, Bumgarner doesn't pitch, but every one, game out of 5. So he's not there to save you in games 2, 3, 4, and 5. And Shark, good pitcher, eats innings, but 1 out of 3 starts are stinkers. So same thing. It's like plenty of his pitches or his starts, the Giants are down 6-1 by the third or fourth inning. So, you just got to kind of shake those off and say, hey, look, the offense is not controlled by the pitching. We just got to do what we got to do and try to stay in the game. If we need to score 6 runs a game to have a chance, well, that's what we need to do. And they need to eke out those runs because God knows last year was a struggle. I mean, they lost a ton of games like they did in 2010, 2-1, 3-2, 4-3, 2-0. They were shut out more times last year than they had been in the previous 20. It was a rough year offensively. And I do think that, and I do think if they had this year's lineup last year and given the spring performance, I think they would have won a lot more games last year. So let's just hope that that's what happens this year. Even if their pitching gives up 4, 5, 6 runs, hopefully their offense keeps them in the game and they can, win by a run or 2 or push to extra innings and eke out a W or 2 during this 6 to 8 week absence of both pitchers. So, but 76, it's rough, I know, but completely overshot last year. All of us did. I hope 76 is undershooting by a ton, but even if the Giants win 81 or 83, it's not terribly off. But I don't think they're going to win the playoffs this year. I mean, Dodgers have won it 4 years in a row. The West, that is.
5.
5, sorry. Thank you. 5 years in a row. Of course, they don't do well in the playoffs. That's fine, but that's irrelevant for this discussion. We're not talking about World Series. We're talking about playoffs. You talking about playoffs? I do agree with you. I think Arizona and Colorado were flashes in the pan. I wouldn't be surprised if one of them is contending this year, but certainly not both. And certainly not San Diego. So I do think there's that to the Giants' benefit. But still, NL West looks overall pretty strong. Wild card, aside from the Cardinals in 2011 or whatever it was when they won 83 games and won the wild card, you typically need 86 minimum, if not 88, 89 wins. So playoffs are going to be tough. They're going to be tough. But if they can get there, it's just going to cement the even year dynasty.
Well, I mean, it's funny because out of all this, we really don't know what the Giants have. I really, truly think that it's going to take a month for us to see what kind of an offense, what kind of a bullpen, how Bochy uses Sandoval and Tomlinson, and if he platoons Duggar and Jackson. I think it's going to take about a month for the Giants to really catch their stride as to understand what they're going to be. So I don't think they're going to really start off that well. I wouldn't be shocked if they're 14-18 after 20. What is that? My math sucks at the moment. 32 games. Yeah, 32 games. I wouldn't be too shocked if that happens. And then they start to put it together before, the Bumgarner comes back and maybe Samardzija hits his stride and maybe all those things. But I think we are, like, for as much as we saw in spring, I think that there's more question marks heading into this Giants season than any season I can remember over the last 7-8 years.
So many questions. I mean, could you have imagined seeing what looks like is going to be the opening day roster in a couple of days? If we saw that a year ago, we would have thought, what universe is that from? That's got to be a parallel universe. There's no way that's our universe. There's just no way we would have thought we would have seen some of these players. It's crazy. It's crazy to think. And I think we need to talk about that next. So the 25-man roster is not set. I think you mentioned it's going to be set after tonight. We'll find out tomorrow. They're carrying 31 right now. They got to trim it down to 25. So you had some predictions on what's going to happen. Why don't you share your thoughts?
Well, I think Duggar makes the team. And not only do I think Duggar makes the team, this plays back into my wins prediction. I think he wins the Rookie of the Year. I think Duggar makes the team, and the outfield has Duggar and Blanco. And the starting rotation right now, we have Block, Cueto, Holland, and Stratton. And they don't need to use a fifth starter until April 10th. And I think Tyler Beatty ends up getting slotted in that role. And then in the infield, Kelby Tomlinson, Pablo are there. And the bullpen is what? We had Melanson as the closer. Guerin, Strickland, Osich, Watson. That's 5.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been talking about the outskirts. Okert is still playing for a part. Julian Fernandez is another guy. He's the Rule 5 guy that the Giants got from the Rockies. I think they keep him on the roster. I think that the Giants' mentality right now is that they have to stockpile pitching because they've lost Samardzija and Bumgarner. Samardzija, you said it, over 200 innings for what, 5 straight years? That's ridiculous. Yeah. So I think they end up keeping Fernandez, and they have to also balance out the lefty-righty because Osich, Okert, and Watson are already there on the left-handed side.
Yeah, and we got guys like Will Smith. He'll be coming back on May 1st. So yeah, they got some options here. But Julian Fernandez, that's definitely a wild card. I mean, the guy throws almost 100 miles an hour, but early in the spring he was just lit up. He's been better since.
Yeah.
But
he has no idea where the ball's going, is what I was
No, and
say.
that's the biggest thing is that his control. And I know he's a Rule 5 draft pick, so if he's not put on the 25-man roster, that boom, he's a free agent. So they would lose him. Sam Dyson's another guy. He came into the fold last year late, kind of a reclamation project after his Texas stint, and performed really, really well. He had some hiccups, but overall, I think he was great. He certainly earned probably a spot on this team this year, given his performance last year. But like I said earlier in the podcast, they're not going to get a lot of deep innings from these guys. It's just not going to happen. And so the bullpen's going to be called on quite frequently in this first month. And I wouldn't be surprised if, a couple weeks in the season, Bochy is talking to the media about how gassed the bullpen is. I just think it's a real distinct possibility. And the way he manages the bullpen too, he doesn't generally let games get out of hand. He will make switches when he knows things are going south, and he'll make 3 or 4 switches within an inning. So, you look for Bochy to be like lefty righty in the 6th and 7th inning, and just try to ride out the last couple of pitches for the rest of the game. So it's going to be rough. But the offense is the key. Hopefully they can pad leads where starters like Stratton and others can stay in for maybe an extra inning or two past maybe where they would have if it was a closer game. Those things are possible. So I again, I'm not saying this team can't make the playoffs. I think they can. Do I think they will? No. But I think in order to do it, they have to have so many things go right for them. And they're already starting the season with so many things going wrong for them. And that's the hard part, is that, you needed to kind of start off with that perfect balance sheet. And it's already in the red. So they're already digging out from under a hole.
There's nowhere to go but up.
That's there you go. Nowhere to go but up. So let's see. We talked about final 25-man roster. Jarrett Parker, of course, looks like he was cut very quietly, by the way.
Well, they just showed it on the broadcast. Holland took his roster spot.
Yeah, Holland took his roster spot because he's going to be starting behind Johnny Cueto. It's going to be Ty Block against Clayton Kershaw on Thursday. That's going to be fun. And look, Ty Block, I mean, he ended the year not so great last year, but he had some phenomenal starts at the beginning of his 2017 campaign. So he's not pitching against Clayton Kershaw, meaning it doesn't matter what Clayton Kershaw does. He's facing the Dodgers batters, and they're minus Justin Turner right now, so you never know. I mean, he could shut him down. He could allow 1 run over 6. It's very possible.
Well, he's also he's hitting 600 against Clayton Kershaw, so Ty will just take care of it himself.
There you go. Yeah, I still got a hit off of Ohtani, I think, a couple weeks ago, which was interesting, and he struck him out too. Yeah. We'll see what happens there. So it's always possible, but with Clayton Kershaw pitching against the Giants 3 or maybe even 4 times in the first month, the prospect of winning 1 is like, yay. Winning 2 out of 4, probably not going to happen. So we'll take what we can get. That's going to be rough. Johnny Cueto, who looked good last night in Oakland, is going to be pitching number 2. Looks like Derek Holland 3, and then Stratton 4, and that's what they open up with, right? 4 games against the Dodgers.
Yes, and then a day off, and they come home and play Seattle. Yep.
Yeah. Then the off day, which you said they don't need the 5th starter. Then they can reset with Ty Block against Seattle, and then Cueto. And I think that's only a 2-game series. And then boom, it's a 3-game series against guess who? The Dodgers once again at home. So they got 7 of their first 9 games against the. It just sounds bad, doesn't it? 7 out of the first 9?
No, because what if they win 5 or 6 of these 7 games? What if they win 4 of these 6 or 5 of these?
Totally right.
It's already a jump ahead in the division. That's
if that happens, what then everybody's going to be singing their praises. I mean, and it could happen. Right. I mean, weirder things have happened. I mean, the Tampa Bay Rays have swept the Boston Red Sox before. I mean, it can happen. I'm just saying that. On paper it doesn't look great, but hey, 7 games, you're shooting for at least 3 wins, right? That's your minimum. You cannot lose 5 because you just put yourself in a 3-game hole in 7 games. You just can't do that. You got to win 3 out of those 7, and that's only a 1-game deficit. And that won't be that bad. 4 games or anything above that is gravy. It's great because then you've gained games on the Dodgers, but yeah, it's his first month of the season. It's going to be rough, and that's going to be the gut check for the Giants. Other news, Dusty Baker was announced today. He's rejoining the Giants as a special advisor. This is interesting. So what does a special advisor do, Eric?
He answers Yeah, I do. He answers the phone.
I mean, I know he does. He's going to report to CEO Larry Baer and, of course, Brian Sabian.
So if Bear or Sabian or Evans's phone number comes on his screen, Dusty answers and says, "Yeah, this is what I've seen," and then they're done. I mean, I I don't know if Dusty's going to be out watching minor league games. I mean, who the hell knows? The special advisor role is really, bottom line is, it's a guy that the GM or the president can bounce things off of. That's what he's there for. That's it. He's a guy that they can bullshit with and try to work through the problems that are going on, or just try to find new ideas. It's so now if Larry Bear wants to call Dusty after a game, he can, because Dusty's on the payroll.
I always wonder with those guys. Well, you see these ex-players and ex-coaches become special advisors or special scouts or whatever. Do they roll into the park? 8 to 5 or during game days?
No.
Do they sit in an office and answer phone calls and type email? I mean, I don't think that's what their life is like, right?
No, they watch games. Certain guys are specifically watching advanced games. Certain guys are watching the minors games. And certain guys are literally sitting at home on their couch watching as much baseball as they normally watch and getting paid by a club to tell them what they think.
Could you imagine having that job? I'm just saying, like, if you're paid, ridiculous amounts of money, because he's clearly getting high six figures, if not more,
right?
To just sit at home or maybe go to the park every so often and just watch baseball and then, like, answer questions. I mean, I don't know. It seems like a pretty low pressure job because, you're not a manager. You're not the general manager. You're not even a scout. I mean, you're just like, you want some advice? Yeah, okay, do this. All right, whatever,
That's the job. That's the job. That is, I trust this person's opinion. That's the job.
Now, of course, Twitter was relentless on its admonition of Dusty Baker saying, oh, great, now the Giants will never win a World Series again because he's going to hand the game ball to someone. But
people, don't worry. Dusty's not managing the games, man.
I know.
Dusty's great. He's a great talent evaluator. He's great at talking to players and understanding what players need. He just sucks as a manager. He's horrible at in-game management. So as long as he stays away from that part of the Giants, they're fine. Don't worry about it. Because he's just one of the worst in-game managers I've ever seen. He doesn't know how to manage a bullpen. He doesn't know at the right times to make switch. I'm sorry. I'll never think Dusty is a good in-game manager. But, getting the most out of talent and identifying talent, Dusty's pretty good.
Yeah, I love the guy, but, man, you could just count on your, both hands how many times he screwed various teams in the playoffs.
Yeah,
with
it's not
making
just
decisions
the Giants
that he
anymore.
made or non-decisions that he's made. It's just
Giants, Cubs, and Nats.
Nats.
Oh, wait, and the Reds. I'm sorry. 4 franchises.
It was the Reds who the Giants played in 2012. Right. It was Dusty's Reds, who were up 2-0 on the Giants, and they blew that. So, thanks, Dusty. Oh, wait, it was the Nats, too, in 20... Oh. Sorry. Cruel. That was Matt Williams. Another ex-Giant.
A new A's bench coach.
I know, right? Matt Williams, A's best bench coach. Doesn't make any sense. So last year we asked the community to send us your predictions in terms of how many games the Giants were going to win last year. And I just wanted to go ahead and review last year's preview. And it was pretty funny. First of all, we had about 20 submissions last year, a combination of Facebook and Twitter, and the average win total from all of your submissions was 95.3. 95.
Oh. That's like me this year. So, makes sense.
So there you go. You're just right there with Eric. So the highest number we had was 112, but we also had 111, and 110 wins. So we had 3 of those insane outliers. We had 3 predictions above 100. We had a 101, 102, and another 101. And then we had pretty much everybody was in the 90s. The lowest we had last year was 83 out of all of our predictions is 83. We also had 100, 103. Yeah, so 83 was our absolute lowest. Average 95. So not one person got close last year, but then again, neither did we. Eric guessed 84. He was the closest and still was 20 games off. So this year we asked again. Granted, it was only 1 day of warning for you all, but we got a good dozen submissions or so. So I'm going to go through those right now. All right. So I promised you I would read them. So at @BlueJays_Giants, and you know this guy, right, Eric?
Yeah, this is a buddy of mine. This is a good friend, Chris Corbett. He and I actually used to host a podcast together back in the day on Around the Foghorn.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, and we were talking. I'll take his.
Sure.
Chris apparently is as delusional as I am, and thinks that the Giants. And you know what? God bless him, because maybe I should be Canadian, because that's what Chris is. He thinks they're going to win 88 games. He said that it is his original thought, and that he's not changing it after the Bumgarner injury. And Chris and I were talking the other day, and he says that he still trusts the offense, very similar to me, which is funny. And that the two injuries hurt, but that they give some of these young guys a chance to show if they actually have it. And he's also a big fan of Stratton. So, Chris, I just want to say thank you for backing me up in my delusional phase. I appreciate the help. Chris thinks that the Giants are going to win 88 games. He didn't mention playoffs or World Series, but we're just going to pretend that Chris picked them to win the World Series, too. I'll let him know later. Yeah,
that's still 8 games less than you, dude. Just saying.
Yeah, I know, but I'll text him later and let him know we picked them to win the World Series. So good job, Blue Jays, Giants, Chris. I totally appreciate that.
All right, Michael McKay on Facebook. I know this guy. I've met him several times. He's a long-time Giants fan, is always at the park, and a long-time listener. He said on Facebook, "Oh, man, I want to be optimistic and say 86 to 90. But realistically, I will say 80 to 84. So, yeah, it's one of those things where he's expressing his hope and dreams as a Giants fan, getting to that wild card benchmark of 86 to 90. But realistically, he's thinking around, maybe 500, maybe a little above, maybe a little bit below. So I think that's pretty realistic. Over on Facebook again, Carl, sorry if I mispronounced your name, Carl Ingermanson or Ingermanson, something like that. What do you think, Eric? What do you think that is?
I think it's got to be Inger.
Ingermanson? Anyway, says 81, they will make the playoffs, ... but not this year. So,
well, what year are they going to make the playoffs, Carl? Be more specific. What year? Are we talking like 2024 or like
exactly.
2019?
But
Come
not
on,
this
Carl.
Year.
We demand answers.
Think you can say that about any team, right? They will make the playoffs, but not this year. It's like, well,
like the Phillies are going to make the playoffs, but not this year.
Mm-hmm.
Although they might, so forget that.
Man, you guys with your names I can't pronounce. Ron Basai, I guess.
I'm gonna say Basie.
Basie or Basai. Sorry if we're hacking that up, man. There's no phonetic pronunciation here. He says 92 wins, so another lofty goal there. Robert Hickman, also on Facebook, says 72. He's the only one who, well, no, I guess there's one more, but is lower than me. So he's thinking lower than me, 72. But again, that's still an 8-win improvement from last year. Anything's an improvement of last year.
Right.
Now, I haven't seen a single thing close to 60 wins or anything like that.
Right. They're going to match their win total from last year by August.
Oh, I hope so. God knows. We'll see.
If they don't, they ain't winning 96 games.
We'll see after. You know what? 96 is going to be pretty obvious as it being a possibility or not at the end of April, I'd say.
Well, I don't know. Well,
if they're 500, it's still possible, right? But if they're like freaking 12 and 18, it's not happening, dude. It's not happening.
Well, I don't want to interrupt the flow of these the fan predictions, but like the only way that they can win more games than the Dodgers are so good that I had to come up with a number that would be better than what the Dodgers. I still think the Dodgers are going to win like 95, 94 games and be like right behind them,
Yeah.
So like I had to come up with a number that I felt was realistic enough to beat the Dodgers. And so 96 is why it's so high.
Well, if they take all 10 games, then I'm thinking it's possible. We'll see. Let's see. Max Rosito says 85 to 90 wins, wild card entry at the very least. So another positive listener there. Ken Garner, 86. BJ Martin, also on Facebook, 88. Another high total. Russell Smith also says realistically 75 wins. So that's kind of right in line with my 76 with no playoffs. But optimistically 85 wins and playing the wild card game. So he's thinking maybe they could sneak in the wild card at 85. I think 85 is a really low number, especially with the parity in the league today. I think 85 is really rough to ask that wins the wild card because, again, that's really only happened one time at that number or lower. So you really need to shoot for 86, 87 or higher to make the wild card. Michael Wells says, I'm going out on the line here, 88 to 90 with the postseason by way of the wild card. So, yeah, that would be in the wheelhouse of the wild card. And then back on Twitter at Ringmaster2015 says 83. So a ho-hum mediocre year. And also on Twitter at Bryn Davies says, even with Bum and Shark missing the start, I'm looking for a big improvement on last year's farce. But pitching an obvious concern, 79 wins with a slow start.
I gotta give Bryn credit here because he acknowledged that 79 wins is an improvement over last year.
Mm-hmm.
Just like you've acknowledged that anything is an improvement over last year. So, as far as we all make our wild predictions, at least Bryn recognizes that, they were shite last year.
Yeah. I mean, there's no way this team is a 98-loss team. I think we all are confident in that. But, again, even shooting for 79 is still a 15-game improvement over last year. That's a lot. It's not like, we had 5 bad luck starts and we really should have only lost 93 games. It's like, no. You lost a lot more than just bad luck. I mean, bad luck definitely had a factor in it, but there were definitely just long-staying principles throughout the entire season that made you lose that many games. So, namely, lack of offense and the bullpen just blew up. I mean, how many games did they lose, after the 6th inning, 7th inning? I mean, it was an ungodly amount. So, again, that's why missing those guys in the top of the rotation is really going to hurt because it taxes that bullpen and it puts more pressure on them. And they're exposed for longer. So if you have a guy that blows a lead in the 6th inning, well, it's a 6th inning, but, if Bum was pitching, maybe he would still be in there. So we'll see what goes on. And then rounding it out on Facebook, Ryan Leong, our old friend. I see him all the time covering Giants games at AT&T Park. He says 80. So shooting just around 500 there. So definitely a lower average. I haven't added it up, but nothing crazy except for Eric's total.
I have the highest total.
You had the highest total of anyone. That's what's
even
crazy.
The fans,
and last year we had 5 or 6 guesses above 100. I mean, that's when we saw those last year. Even we were like, yeah, y'all drinking crazy juice, man. That's just that's not gonna happen. But no one was even close last year, no matter what.
Only one guy picked less than the 84 that I picked last year. So last year I had the lowest of everybody, and this year I have the highest of everybody.
Yeah.
So you should all take that as a positive, because I was right last year, sort of, because I was still off by 20 games. So it's a positive this year.
So yeah, last year you're right, there was an 83 last year.
Yeah, that's it. It's the only one that was lower than my 84. So this year, trust my 96. If it's not 96, it's gonna be 98, obviously.
Oh, clearly. No, you're gonna be 20 games in the other direction. They're gonna win 116. They're gonna break the regular season win total record.
Watch out, 2001 or 2000 Mariners. 2000.
Yeah, it's 2000 or 2001. I don't know. It's one of those. They won 115, I believe, with Ken Griffey.
No, they won 116.
116. Ugh.
Yeah.
And then lost in the first round.
No, second round to the Yankees.
Round?
Yeah, to the Yankees because Clemens.
I remember it was the Yankees for sure. Yeah.
Clemens threw like maybe you're right. Maybe it was the first round. Clemens threw like a 16 strikeout, like 1 hit shutout or something like that, and the whole series was over.
I thought it was 2001. I could be wrong about that. 2001.
No, it was
2001. No,
Really?
the Seattle Mariners 2001 season was the 25th since the franchise's inception. The season saw the Mariners obtain a record of 116-46, tying the Major League record for wins set by the Chicago Cubs in 1906 and setting the record for wins by an American League team. Wow. Of those wins, 59 were by 4 or more runs, a record for the number of games won by such a margin. Wow, that's crazy. They did. You're right. They did defeat the Indians in the DS, but they lost to the Yankees in the championship series. So there you go. Crazy.
Well,
116
that's what
wins.
That's what the Giants have to live up to this year. Those Mariners.
Good old Mariners, which they play actually in games 5 and 6 of the season, which is really odd to play the Dodgers, the Mariners, and then the Dodgers again. Very odd combination. I'm hoping to go to one of the Mariners games. We'll see what happens.
Oh, that's good.
All right, so I think that's going to about do it for our season preview. A little less, pomp and circumstance we used to have way back in the day when we were younger and we were all living together and didn't have families. We got together with many other personalities from the sports broadcasting community, including a lot of people you would recognize. We'd get together at a bar and do it live. We're doing it live! But unfortunately, times have changed, and we got to do this all kind of, over the internet. It still works. It's still good. I hope you still enjoy it. But yeah, Eric, you'd been writing away. We got a lot of blogs and entries coming up in our next few weeks. And I think as the season rolls along here, me and Eric are very, very committed to bringing you TortureCast episodes every week. We really want to do this for the entire season. Certainly there are going to be hiccups when we're sick or we're traveling or other things happen, but we're going to try and give you some TortureCast baseball nuggets every Monday night or so is what we're going to shoot for. But again, things will vary when they do. But yeah, you got anything else to pimp or sell, Eric?
Yeah, we did the audio season preview tonight. I'll do a written season preview over the next couple days as the 25-man roster comes out, profiling the rotation, the lineup, the bench guys, the bullpen, things like that. There'll be about 2-3 things coming out the next 2 days, all before the first pitch on Thursday.
That's awesome. And just as a reminder, I got my start on TortureCast. I was doing a lot of little podcast things, and I was listening to Willie and Ben and Mike back in the day, and I was sending in audio segments that they liked, and eventually I was asked to be a co-host. And I'm just encouraging you guys, if you're out there and you have some audio equipment and you have some nuggets of information you want to share with us, being statistical anomalies, funny stories, little audio jingles, whatever you want. We're welcome to incorporating those into the podcast. So you can record those, send them in MP3 format to chad@torturecast.com or torturecast@gmail.com. And if we get them, and if they're not completely horrid, we're going to include them into the podcast. We'd love it, man. We'd love to include those kinds of things. We definitely want to hear from the community. Same with Twitter and Facebook. Send us in your feelings, your thoughts, your prayers, your emotions. Don't send us any tears of blood. We don't really want those. We'll reject them out of sight, out of mind. But send us what you want, and we'll go ahead and read those on the air as well, just like we did tonight with our season preview. So thanks. I mean, we got to ask more questions too, because clearly when we ask questions, the community responds. So we'll be sure to be more active before we record to get your feelings on certain happenings and topics for every week that we're going to record, because it definitely means and provides an engaging podcast and an episode for you guys. So you can follow us collectively on Twitter @TortureCast, or you can like us on Facebook, facebook.com/TortureCast. You can follow us individually, myself @ChadK21, Eric @2OutHits. That's with the number 2. You heard Willie earlier tonight. You can follow him @WillieDills and Ben @FriedDuck. So for Eric and Willie, which we're both here tonight, hopefully Willie will be joining us for many more episodes this season. This is Chad signing off for episode 136, and we will see you in 137, and hopefully the Giants have won at least one game by then. See you next time. Aboom.
A big thank you to everybody for listening to the TortureCast, the podcast by and for fans of the San Francisco Giants. Follow us on Twitter at TortureCast. You can also like us on Facebook or check out our blog at torturecast.com. I also want to say thank you to Ashcon and Bailey for letting us use their song Feeling Like a Giant for our intro. For Ben Lee and Chad King, my name is Willie Dills saying, we'll see you next time.